All right, can everybody see the screen now? Here?
Yeah, I can see it perfectly.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, before I start, Rizky has already introduced me, so I will just go down very quickly about who I am and what do I do. My name is Shahira Al-Balutfi. I'm actually a tenured faculty member in School of Computer Sciences, associate researcher in speech technology and also machine learning group of University Technology Spain, or Polytechnic University of Spain, okay, rather than, or Technical University of Spain. And also, I'm a deputy director in our international office, overseeing the collaboration engagement on global engagement, okay, and international networking. So as we are going on, if you have any questions, so maybe Rizky can help ask question. If you can put it on the chat, you can stop me, Rizky, and also put out the question. You don't have to wait until I finish. Now, today's talk is really going to be on culture computing, about how we try to bridge the digital divide using cultural sensitivity, or coming up with a culturally responsive system. Because usually all our models, when we talk about human-computer interaction, the models are very much following or based on the Western culture or the Western mentality. So in my research, our team, we try our best to infuse the cultural elements in HCI, okay, especially the Eastern cultural element now. If you all look at this, first of all, for affective computing, before you understand what affective computing is, I'm sure everybody know what is this, yeah? Kuda belang, or known as zebra, right, in English. Now, can I ask if you think that the zebra has a white stripe with black skin, or white skin with black stripe? What do you think? Maybe you can type on the chat box, and perhaps Rizky can tell me what people are saying, because I think I'm not able to look at the chat box from here. Okay. So anyway, so is there any response there, Rizky? Okay, I can see some chats there. Hold up. White
Yeah,
skin, black
there's a
stripe.
couple of
Yeah.
response.
Yes. So no, to answer Mr. Rizky Kusmana, no, this is not an example of the culture, black and white. No, actually, I'm trying to say that, you never know whether it's white skin with black stripe with white skin. All when we're doing for affective computing, when we are using machine learning, we are trying to find for patterns. Yeah, just like in this zebra, the patterns for zebra, they have different clusters or different species, and different species have the same clusters, but not one zebra is the same. So it's just with us something like, analogy for culture. Individually, we may be different, but we are all clustered in different culture, right? The Southeast Asian culture, Malaysia, Indonesia, more or less the same. And Indonesia even is more diverse because you have many other tribes. So this is a good analogy. Now, moving towards affective computing, and if you want to know what is affective computing, maybe you can watch this video first, and hopefully you can hear the video.
Need for the industry.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, we can hear it clearly.
You cannot, or you can?
I can.
You can. All right. So, okay. So please look at this video, and then let me know what is the reaction of the guy in the video later.
And the growth of music online. Well, Guy Cuny is the editor of the technology website News Wireless. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Were you surprised by this verdict today?
I'm very surprised to see this verdict to come on me, because I was not expecting that. When I came, they told me something else, and I'm coming. You got an interview there, so it's a big surprise anyway.
A big surprise.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. With regards to the cost that's in.
All right. So can somebody tell me in chat what is the reaction of the person when you see? Maybe I can just play it again with more.
Music Online. Well, Guy Cuny is the editor of the technology website News Wireless. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Were you surprised by this verdict today?
I'm very surprised to see this verdict to come on me because I was not expecting that. When I came, they told me something else, and I'm coming. You got an interview there, sorry.
Okay. So when you look at this, what reaction do you think that he's showing? You
I
can
think
chat
he's
person.
pretty nervous.
Nervous?
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at his reaction. Okay. How about anybody else? When you see the reaction, what do you think? What is the reaction is?
I would say that he's excited, but also a bit nervous.
Okay. How about the rest? Anyone else? Okay. The thing is, with this video, this person, Guy Cuny, he actually went for an interview. Okay, he went for an interview to this broadcasting company, right? As a driver. But because his name is the same as one of the CEO of multimedia company that switched that day, they wrongly switched the person. So the person who wants to go for driving interview, drive as a driver, as a drebar, yeah, they put him on a limelight and they started asking big questions. And he was, of course, can you imagine? You're going for an interview as a driver, and then you were actually asked to sit there at the limelight, and now you're live on TV. And they ask questions about the multimedia industry and whatnot, which he probably doesn't know. That is why you see he was so surprised, and he was shocked, actually. It was not a pleasant surprise, by the way. But what he did as the interview progresses, if you can see.
If you can go everywhere, you're gonna see a lot of people downloading to the internet and the website, everything they want. But I think it's much better for the development and to improve people what they want and to get on the easy way and so fast the things they're looking for.
So when the host was asking question, he was just going on with it. So he was trying to adapt to the situation. All right. He doesn't really say, no, I am not supposed to be here. And he tried to get out of the situation, get off the chair or something like that. What he was trying to do is to try to adapt to the situation. So that is what effective computing is. Something that is a mistake, but he was trying his best to still adapt to the situation, even though he's not the person supposed to be on that chair. Okay. So similarly, that actually explains very well the concept of effective computing. Now, effective computing is actually a study where we try to sense, interpret, process human affect. Okay, human affect is also known as emotion, emosi, yeah, for a better adaptive and more emotionally, the emotion is used for more intelligent interaction. Okay, and in a way, culturally sensitive interfaces to have culturally sensitive systems for a better or smoother interaction, and to also mainly to mitigate frustration. I'll show you some example, but before that, look at this. So it's all a system that we try to come up with system that can at least think with emotion. Of course, they cannot think like human being. Okay, for a human to understand other people's emotion is only 60% accuracy. Imagine if you try to train machine to do that. So for me, probably to understand risky emotion, maybe 60% I'm right? And then another 40% I'm not, because I'm not from that same culture, and it can be, I can interpret wrongly also. So it's also a sense and response system. We try to sense the emotion and respond. So this whole study of effective computing, if you ask me, in my own interpretation, in my own conclusion, is all about bringing emotion into science by the science of emotion. So how do we do it? Actually, simply said, the loop is a process that translates emotion and cultural elements into a machine-readable form. All right, because for us to use system, the system needs to be able to understand the codes. And for the codes, we need to program things, right? So we are changing everything into a mathematical model, into a machine-readable form. Now, First, we try to do the recognition process using single or multi cues. The cues can be facial recognition, can be voice, can be text, can be gesture, pergerakan, or a combination of all of it, can be eye gaze, okay? And then we try to adapt by using certain code, certain programming, match recognize emotion with a suitable kind of response. It can be quite rule-based. And then we output the reaction. The system will output the reaction, the suitable reaction or expression, okay? Suitable reaction or expression to what has been recognized. So for example, if I recognize one of you, if I recognize that you are actually being confused as a student, not trying to understand me as a teacher teaching, I would know from your facial reaction that this student is confused. And I try to respond accordingly. Okay, when you're confused, I'm not going to be like angry, how come you still don't understand me or something like that. No. Well, some lecturers, some teachers are like that, but hopefully you do not have that kind of reaction. Okay. Now, this is some sample interaction. If you look, for example, in an education, if you're using synthetic tutoring agent or a virtual agent, you know, in education here, for example, in Malaysia, sometimes, you know, the children use this online learning and they have this virtual interfaces. So what in one sample interaction is that we use camera to try to understand people's reaction. And if the student is, for example, okay, an example, contohnya, if the student is detected as being stressed while doing the work, we try to adapt and change the question into less complex question to reduce the stress of the student. Now, what if the student is detected as being bored? Now, if the student is detected as being bored doing system, then maybe we can try to increase the complexity of the question. If the student is in a flow, that means the student is going on and the student has not showing any negative reaction and the student is fine, you know, then we will just go on with what is with the existing way, with the existing method. That means they just move on. Okay. Another sample interaction. Okay, sorry. So how do we do it? Now you can see here, these are the cues, multimodal cues. Okay. It can be, these are the different modalities, sometimes known as cues. Voice, we try to recognize people's emotion from voice, from gesture, okay, from gait, from the way that people walk. It's interesting, like, for example, Indonesians are known to walk by dragging their feet. When you walk, drag your feet. Europeans, when they walk, they have like these big steps, all right? So from gait, you can actually, sometimes if you want to do, for example, which country they come from, just from gait, sometimes you're able to do so. And to also understand people's emotion from gait, how if people are walking in a very tired way, very energetic, you know, this kind of thing. Text, for example, social media reviews, social media input, okay? This one from text. Nowadays, you know, you cannot run away from social media. So it actually is a very big resource to model emotion. All right, okay. And then, but the best tool for recognition is still the facial expression. All right. Of course, you have other modalities as well, which you will see as I move on. These are some of the selected works, and you will see where it applies. Right. There was a study. These are all some of my selected studies. If you want to know more information, you can actually go to my website, shahira.com publications, or shahira.com, and click on the publication tab, and you will see some of the publications there. So we had this virtual tutor A, virtual tutor B from different races. We took a tutor that is very synthetic. The tutor cannot do anything. It's just a tutor, synthetic tutor. It doesn't speak, it doesn't move, it's just a tutor. You know, it's just a very synthetic tutor, very static tutor. Okay. a Malay tutor, a Chinese tutor, and for example, an Indian tutor, the one that looks like Malay, Chinese, and Indian. So what we found out is that people have similarity effects. Students actually, if they are Malays, they prefer to have the Malay tutor. If they are Chinese, they prefer to have the Chinese tutor. Indian, it's not conclusive because we don't have enough data to do so. So even here, you see that psychologically people have the similarity effect. They want to, for a tutor that doesn't have life, even that they choose to be, people are choosing tutors to be in their own race. Okay, so that is one study. Let me also go by the
Delayed
chat.
bag.
Okay. All right, now please listen to this. Hopefully everybody can hear. This is a work done by Prof. Narayanan back in 2005, and I met him very long time ago, but it's quite relevant. Please listen to this.
Delayed bag. Yes. Peoria. Peoria. No. Peoria. PIA. No, can I talk to a person? Delayed bag.
So this is actually a disgruntled caller for a call in a call center. So one other way for us to do this is actually by trying to detect voice, right? The emotion in voice. For example, in call centers, when user call and sometimes you get so angry talking to the system because the system is not understanding you. Once they have detected that the user is actually angry or getting frustrated, then they will switch to a human person, to a human representative, and not force the person to go on with the talking to the system all the time. Okay, that is one example. This is another example where we did a text-to-speech Spanish under a Simple for All project with my university, my former university. What we did is we tried to transplant different speaking style in speech synthesis. I think everybody know what speech synthesis is, right? Text-to-speech synthesis. What we did is we took other people's voice and another person's emotion. For example, my voice, but the emotion of Mr. Rizki. And then we transplant that together and we see how it works. So by doing this, what we can do is to just use small sample data, okay, to do the transplantation. All right. So let's say, imagine it's my voice, but then my emotion is something like Rizki. So in that case, I do not have to train many voices and their emotion. I can just have one emotion, one person, and I can transplant different emotion, different voices in that emotion. All right. So it's quite interesting. One of my colleagues, Jamie Lorenzo Tureba, he was working in it. You can actually check in my website or just type this and see in Google. Okay, in Google Scholar they have. The other one is what I work with my students. I have sent a couple of students to Spain for one semester. I think people have their, okay. So I have sent a couple of students from Malaysia, from USM, Chai ID during her undergraduate time to what do you call, to the lab where I was working also in Spain, where I was associated, to have to do this, to implant emotion, Malay emotion in online speech interface, what we call emosi. Okay, emotion Malay online speech interface. This is also a text-to-speech system. You know, text-to-speech used to be very robotic. No, apa kabar, saya baik, you know, something like that. So what we did was we implanted emotions that loosely represent the Malaysian. Okay, for this text-to-speech system. Now you can also check this information in this publication. And okay, this is one of my very good student who have graduated masters. So during her masters, what she did was to try to recognize these different 7 emotions. Neutral is also one of the emotions, actually, using a 3D recognition. Okay. So the difference between 2D and 3D is that it can recognize depth. Depth means when the face moves left to right, it can recognize the emotion. You don't have to be at the frontal face only. Okay, so using a 3D is like, you know, you pull up the 2D like getah, all right, like latex, something like that, and it became 3D. And she has a quite high recognition rate of all these emotion, but these are full-blown emotion. They are not subtle emotion. That means they're acted and full-blown emotion. That is the data. Nowadays, we are moving from full-blown to subtle emotion because that is more representative in real life situation, right? You don't go really crazily angry if you are really angry, right? Sometimes you don't show it even. So that is more representative. Now, next, one of my students who have graduated PhD with me, he was doing biometrics. So what we did was, biometrics first is to verify who is who, right? We use face to verify who is who, but in this case, we have occluded face. So imagine if you're wearing, this was way in 2017 before COVID, yeah? So we already did this recognition using mask, for example. Imagine this is a mask, and imagine this is a sunglasses. So either way, if you are covered like this, you can be recognized still, okay, using the biometric system. But we have added also challenge, which is the expressive face. Not only that they are covered, but they are in certain expression. That means this person may be in anger, this person in happiness, surprise, frustration, or something like that. So how do we actually recognize? When you go to the immigration, when they want to recognize your face, you cannot be laughing or smiling like this, right? They want to take a picture, they'll say, please don't smile. So you just recognize, because usually the system are only capable of recognizing neutral faces. But the system from Badar here, it can recognize not only occluded faces, meaning covered faces, but also faces in this kind of emotion. Okay. It is quite highly cited, this paper. This is also interesting. One of my students, Zaba Ahmad, back in 2017, what we did was to work on personality traits using Facebook. Nowadays, you can't do that anymore because Facebook blocks any API that wants to extract information. So for those of you who are working with Facebook, you should know, right? Personality trait. What we did was we tried to see whether someone is extrovert or introvert or neurotic by taking all their information, by the information on their, what kind of pictures they use. Is it a frontal face? Is it back face? Is it some location or some face of tree, or some pictures of location, pictures of trees or something like that? And also all the conversations from Facebook, how many friends they have, all this structured data and metadata. Okay, structured data can be how many friends they have, how many messages that they send every day, how many likes they give, how many likes they receive, all these kind of things. And then we model it, and we found out that Malaysian women are quite neurotic online. But this is only the personality online, because sometimes, you have this term, keyboard warrior, where you are always showing a different personality online, but you are actually different in real, right? Online mahu complain, mahu mengadu pasal ini, pasal itu, banyak sangat aduan online. Ini itu tak puas hati, tak mau beritahu depan-depan, semua pergi complain online. So they have a different personality. Okay, for Asians, like this is actually normal with Southeast Asians, especially, Southeast Asians are the highest. We have the highest rate of social media use, yeah. I think Philippines number 1. Indonesia is probably number 2 or number 3 compared to the West or other parts of the world. Now, also, this is my undergraduate work, a very simple undergraduate final year project work. I remember her name is, the student who worked with me was Siti Asmak. She worked to recognize shyness in smile. Asians, we are very shy. All right. So, but we do not know when you are smiling in certain way, are you being shy or are you just being friendly? So we try to recognize this. Another work which is similar by another student, I forgot his name already, Saiful Bahari, I think, also undergraduate student. He tried to recognize uncertainty from face. Like, for example, when students are, when I'm teaching, when a teacher is teaching, right, lecturer, professor, the student look, and then we do not know, we would like to have a system that can automatically recognize whether the student is uncertain or not. And if this will be good in a mass student situation, that means in a mass. When you have many students and you're not capable of seeing who is who, to recognize everybody, the system should be able to tell you who is actually being uncertain about what they're saying, confused or uncertain, so we can repeat what we are trying to lecture, or that we can repeat the explanation. Okay, and all right, some of my current research, we will move on to current research, yeah, very quickly. It's trust modeling at zero acquaintance. This is using only voice. It's a cross-cultural study, yeah, cross-cultural study where we try to investigate the trust levels of individuals from different countries based on only voice that is benchmarked using the YouTube video called OMG, 1 minute gradual video. So these are YouTube video, but we have taken the video, we extracted only the voice. Okay, we extracted only the sound from the video, and then we asked people from different culture to listen to this video and tell us whether you trust this person or not. Of course, the people in the video is people you do not know. They are not athletes, they are not politicians, they are not actress or actors, they are not like Bunga Cinta Lestari, or they are not Siti Nurhaliza. They are not people who you know. So that's why we say zero acquaintance. That means you never know them before. Okay, this is actually to mitigate the bias, because sometimes when you know a person, you tend to trust the person more after some time. But in this case, they don't know. So what we found out is that those who have accent, these are all videos from America. Okay, so these people are American, can be African American, Asian American, but they're all American. So what we found out is that people who have accent to be perceived as more trustworthy by Malaysians. Okay, and it depends. Those who have African American accent are perceived less trustworthy. So this is quite interesting work, right? So we took this work further. By the way, it's a work under my Erasmus grant together with University Politecnica de Madrid and also Obuda University Hungary. So these are my two partners that work with it. We took it further, changed the data that we use, now using the facial data as well, together with the voice. So try to listen to this.
Kids are talking by the door. 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 Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door. Kids are talking by the door. Dogs are sitting by the door.
So in this data set, we have all these different kind of reactions or emotions by actors. So we use this acted emotion to actually model the trust. What we try to do is modeling trust based on people's perception of several features, such as attractiveness of the looks, the attractiveness of this person, his expression, voice quality and articulation, and also gesture. You can't see much gesture here since it's only the head, the head part that you can see. And of course, he keeps saying the same thing so that we don't want people to actually try to understand. We want to keep the bias down. So the sentence is the same. So that's why we use this rough data set. But the limitation with this is that it's active emotion. So it might not be fully representing the finding on the population. Okay. So they are not using in emotionally inherent sentence. What we found out is that if you see here, it's quite interesting. Well, we did a study between the Hungarian and also Malaysian. Expression is significantly important to significantly correlate with trust. So when you are speaking with some expression, you are perceived to be trustworthy. Like if you go to school, if you go to your kuliah, like you have your lecturer speaking like in one tone, very flat, not showing any expression, very neutral, probably the engagement is not there and you don't really trust this person very much. This is what is showing. Of course, more study that is needed. But when it comes to Hungarian, it doesn't matter. They do not relate expression to trust. Because Hungarians, according to my partner, Professor Andrea, she said they are not very trusting people because of their history, because of the war and stuff like that. Okay. The study is still ongoing with other members, actually. You can see some of the... We also did it with Yemeni group and whatnot. The paper is actually, the most recent paper is published in IEEE Access. Some other paper are here as well. Okay, next is cyberbullying. This is my current work. I have a student right now, PhD student that is working right now, that is still existing student that is working on it, where we try to analyze. This is only textual, okay? No face, no voice, just textual. We try to analyze text to predict bullying on cyber world, all right? What we do is, this is probably the first work that is using bystander feature. Bystander adalah pemerhati. Yeah. Usually most of this work, they do not use the post that they extract. It's just the main post. But what we did was we tried to extract the main post and all the comments that comes with the post, which what researchers haven't done yet. Basically, sentiment analysis work. Hopefully it's groundbreaking. And we have also the first SciBy data set that has been created and uploaded in the Malaysian Open Science platform and also Kaggle. We are also introducing new method, but don't worry about the method. I'm not going to go through the method. This cyberbully also has fine-grained classes. So the system is able to tell not only whether something is the post is cyberbully post or not. It's just not binary, but it's also able to tell whether this is with high aggression, with low aggression, and it's more fine-grained. Okay, more information. This is the method, so I'm not going to go through the method. Don't worry about it. These are some of the publications that you can see, and we have 3 pending publications under review. 2 actually. All right, this was some of the past work where we came up with effective systems like guide of the museum in Spain. This was in Spain. This was with one of the FYP undergrad student that I work with. Effective home agent. We have Groucho with the Misa yang besar. So Groucho could actually speak. This was back in 10 years ago. This was one of my work for effective hi-fi. So this person can actually connect with the hi-fi system, and the hi-fi system would speak in different emotion and could understand your emotions as well. So when you're speaking to it in a angry way, it tries to bring down the anger by saying, sorry, I'm not that good in doing my job. Please be patient with me. Tolonglah sabar sedikit dengan saya orang baru, budak baru belajar, or something like that, but in Spanish. Okay. And all right, so we also have another study on cross-cultural voice emotion, where this was done in Japan with one of my students. We went to Japan with JAIS, Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. We took all these people, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Malay, we use text-to-speech system that JAIS, and we ask them, but it's actually spoken only in Spanish. So this text-to-speech speak only in Spanish, but we ask people from all these countries to listen to it, and we ask them to rate what emotion they think the person is speaking. So if you can see here, many people think that, you know, especially Spanish, they can understand. So they have quite good recognition, because they can understand also the meaning, because they are Spanish speakers. But for the rest of the people, if you see here, like for example, Japanese, the neutral one could be understood by all races, and sadness. But the rest, they have quite low understanding. That means if you're Indonesian, you're listening to Spanish, you're not listening to the meaning because you don't understand Spanish. Many of you don't understand Spanish. All you're doing is to try to understand the tone, the prosody, right? Whether this is sounding like angry or sounding like neutral, something like sad. So only these two emotions are quite easy to understand. The rest, they have a lot of confusion. Okay, so that shows that emotion is interpreted differently, culture to culture. This is one study that I do with one of my colleagues, Dr. Ahmad Sufril, which is on thermal-based stress modeling, where we try to understand people's stress by using thermal systems. Or they use face detection algorithm, and then which doesn't come with the camera. So it's non-invasive. So you don't have camera, you do not know people are trying to detect stress from you. What we found out is the most prominent area that tells emotion is the periorbital here, this area. The heat in this area can tell whether you are, what kind of emotion that you're in. Also the nose tip, upper lip, and also your cheek. The thermal condition of this area could actually tell what your emotion is. This one I will skip because nothing to do with emotions. All right, so when it comes to culture computing, I'll go quite fast. Usually we look at the East and West. Now, if you look at this, one size does not fit all. Okay, emotion are recognized differently from culture to culture. Okay, they're recognized differently and they express also differently. Do everybody agree with me that it's understood differently culture to culture? Do you
I
all
agree, doctor.
agree? Maybe some of you know is one size fit all, you know, you can use. So you cannot use you cannot train using a Western data and try to apply it on a Eastern data. It doesn't work that way, okay? All right. For example, also, this kind of emotion, annoyed, tired, flow, these are all very culturally relevant. And in reality, in the real world, we don't really show full-blown emotion, okay? Emotion is subtle. When you are feeling something, sometimes you don't show it. You don't show in a very full-blown emotion, right? When you are, for example, when you're surprised, okay, you can see that you're surprised. But other than that, frustrated, anger, kecewa, what else? Different emotions, you know, sadness, depression. Sometimes it's not easy, right? It's not full-blown. So subtle emotion can be quite culture specific, especially masking. I'll explain to you what is masking.
When you want to say yes,
for example, imagine this is an Indian, right? If you want to have a yes/no recognition, it can be different with Indian because you see how they say yes and how they say no.
at that time, most of the time, Indian people are using the body language. Yes, it's possible. मैं करूँगा. आज ही करने वाला हूँ. It's possible. मैं करूँगा. But when they want to say no, they will say, नहीं यार, होने वाला नहीं मेरे से. मैं नहीं करने वाला. But if the person is senior and if he cannot say no, so he will give the expression on the face negative, but his body language say.
All right, so imagine if I take this data from India to do just an agreement or whatever, right? Modeling, and their yes is like this, it's going to confuse the system if I use it with, for example, Indonesian, because your yes is like this and this is no. Probably the system is going to say, when you do this, it's going to say that you're saying yes, because the data is actually trained with another culture from India. And yes, I do agree with Rifki Kusmana, who say that social science research is generally weird, which is Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. Correct, you're right in a way. That is why we as Asians, Indonesian, Malaysian, janganlah terlalu ikut Barat. So we need to be critical. We need to be critical. We can put our foot down and say, no, this is the way and this is how, okay, the data has to be. So you have to be very careful with your own data. Especially you need to be protective of your own cultural data, your cultural sensitive data. And you don't have to follow everything. What the West say may not be right. You don't have to think that, oh, they are hebat, everything they do is right. No, you have the say as well, because you have the data, right? Okay, now.
When you want,
Okay, also here, politeness. We have inclusive language, way of addressing. For English, if you're using, what is the word that they use to represent first word, first address, how they address people is only I and you. In Europe, for Spain, in European countries, Spain, German, maybe Dutch and all that, maybe they have different kind of, when they have a formal way to address you, as in an older person, or like, for example, in Spain, when you say, how are you to a older person, or more formally, you say, como está, all right? But if you talk to friends, como estás, so it's different. Just like how we speak to like, for example, here in Malaysia, inclusive language, like you, when I want to talk to my parents, I cannot say kamu. I have to say, baba or mama, right? When I have to speak English to older people, I cannot say you, or I cannot say I, because that is considered as rude. I think you understand what I mean. If you don't understand, let me know so I can explain. Anyway, we have inclusive language and way of addressing. We call older people, like older people who are a little bit older than me, I will call puan, or I will call kakak, or I will call auntie, uncle. But in the West, you cannot call people who are not your sisters, your uncle, or your auntie, uncle or auntie. They will be very angry. All right. There's also nouns versus verbs. For example, you go to let's say you go to a British friend's house, let's say they invite you. They want you to have tea. They don't say drink, drink, drink. They say more tea or something like that. But for us, we will say drink, 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 right? Minum, 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 makan, makan, makan. So we use more verbs compared to nouns, if you notice. If you haven't noticed, please notice now. So do you notice that when we go to supermarket, for example, when we try to explain to our kids, when you see the Asians, the kids are running, they will only like be saying something, hey, jangan lari, jangan ini, jangan sentuh, jangan itu, jangan itu. So all using verbs. But the Western people, usually they use now, oh, the orange, this is orange. They will show the kid, the orange is orange in color. This is apple, red. Oh, look, this is banana. So they use like very, very different way of communicating, right? So verbs, nouns. So all these are display rules, okay? Verbal display rules. And also, there are some things here, non-translatable cultural concept. For example, in Arab, there's no frustration. It doesn't have any exact equivalent language. Yeah? Frustration in the Quran, there is no exact translation in Arabic. In English, we have. In Malay, we have, right? Kecewa. In Arabic, maybe it says la tahzan, but tahzan, janganlah bersedih, is not really frast, correct? And then for Tahitians and Ifaluks, those people who are, who are in the northern side of, I think the Ifaluks are the people who live in the colder area. there's no word for emotion. There's no translatable word for emotion. They don't know what is, it's just part of them. And we have amok or latah. I think Indonesians are also quite familiar with this. Amok is an English word that is borrowed from Malay word, amok, mengamok, or latah, melatah, okay? Schadenfreude. This is also very special for the German because Schadenfreude really mean, Schadenfreude has no translation in other language, but I think in Malay, in Indonesia, we have. It means dengki, actually. That is to be happy with other people's misfortune. Okay? Berdengki lah maksudnya. Yeah? And then lucky and considerate are emotion tags in Japan. Lucky and considerate is considered emotion. And Inuit has no anger. So that Briggs actually is an anthropologist who actually went to stay with the Inuit people in the North Pole for a few months. And what she noticed is that they have no anger at all. Sentiasa nyaman saja di sana. Tiada siapa pun yang marah. Okay, so this is very important. In English, you only have you and I. But in Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Melayu, even in some other European language, it's not just you and I. There's a lot of way of addressing. So remember, bahasa jiwa bangsa. Language is the soul of the nation. We don't have to rush to tell our children, you need to know English first and only your own language. We need to learn our own language first to think like our people, and then we can learn a second language or third language. All right. So make sure that you stick to your own native language and make sure that you're good at it. Sorry. These are some of the other non-verbal display rules. We found out that Americans, if you want to detect emotion, it's better to see at the mouth area because they are quite they use their mouth in a very expressive way. Okay, but when it comes to especially East Asian, it's the eyes. That's why you have manga. Yeah, manga is usually, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, they have slanted eyes, right? Very slanted, sepet matanya. But how come in manga, the eyes are very big? You all know manga, right? People who likes manga here. Okay. So, when we want to do, for example, detection, so it's better to concentrate for East Asian on the eyes, okay, because they use their eyes a lot to display emotion. And there's also other Asian cultures that many Asian cultures do not actually show their emotion. This is what I mean by masking problem. So for this mask, that means whatever they feel, they don't show. Or sometimes they try to say that they don't feel that. Okay, adakah, if you ask,
pasti sama. Demikian juga.
so for example, if you say, if you ask someone, adakah engkau marah dengan apa yang berlaku? Oh tidak, aku tidak marah, aku redha. Tetapi dalam hatinya marah. So that's the thing, we are not showing the real emotion. Yeah. So studies have shown that it's better to use a non-invasive like thermal-based radio wave transmission. This is better at recognizing this mass emotion. Also, if you notice the mouse and the emoticons, right? You can see for English emoticons always something to do with the mouth, but for the East Asian emoticons, they always use the eyes. Have you noticed that? So that shows that emotions is mostly shown within the eye area here for the Asian and the mouth area here for the West. Okay. There are more display rules, but I will just skip some that is not important. Personality and sentiment is also something that you have to consider. For example, in this book, Asian Culture, they found out that people with rambut keriting, curly hair, and also darker complexions have less favorable rating, especially in medical area. Okay. The virtual agents who that have curly hair and also darker complexion they have a less they are less favored compared to those who are white skinned and have straight hair. All right. And then in, for example, Israel, male drivers do not like female voice in their GPS system. So the GPS system do not have female voice for male drivers. Okay. Many things, but I just put in here some. And also acted emotion versus emotion in the world. I've also explained this. It's better if you want to do modeling of emotion or cultural emotion, it's better to take a real emotion. But it's not easy to do modeling if you do not have, if you take real emotion. That's why people still using acted emotion, because it's easy to know what is the, what do you call it has a very distinct difference between one emotion to the other, so the system is able to model it better. But in reality, this is not good to represent the population, to represent real world. Okay, so there can be real-time emotion is also is better, but there can be a mismatch when you try to train using acted emotion and applying the model into real situation. That's why it's better not to use the acted emotion. We are moving on for real emotion, but data set of this real emotion is not easy to get. Okay. All right, I think this will come to almost the end. I like this adage from Marvin Minsky, who's known as the father of AI, okay, the Society of Mind. The question is not whether intelligent machine can have any emotion, but whether machine can be intelligent without any emotions. Okay, maybe you want to ponder on this. So the question is not whether intelligent machine can have emotion, but machine is intelligent without any emotions and also culture. When you go to the West, they always tell you, think without emotion, be objective. But actually, if without emotion, we are stupid. All right, we need to have some emotions to think. Then we can make proper decision. The real reason Allah gave us emotion is to help us to adapt and also to decide, to have a better decision making. So, this is just a joke. Nowadays, even with all this emotion work, okay, people are still not that smart lah. Humans were not going to make it as a species. Open box before eating pizza. Of course, you have to open the box before you eat pizza, okay? Anyway, thank you very much. These are some of my teams. I couldn't put all of my teams in here. There's no space. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm very happy to have to engage in a dialogue session if you have questions, sorry, and I will answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zahira. Okay, we would now like to open the screen for a brief Q&A session. Dr. Zahira, are you ready to take a few questions from our audience? Yeah, let's open for 2 questions first. Maybe anyone from the audience that would like to ask some question to Dr. Zahira, you may raise your hand or just directly open your microphone. Okay, maybe while waiting for our audience for any question, I have question for you. So the question is it possible to build a machine that could refine someone's English pronunciation? Because we are before we are talking about dialect, right? With accent. Is it possible to refine our English pronunciation using like AI or something? Maybe we could discuss about it.
English pronunciation, of course you always have AI. You know Duolingo?
Yeah, I do.
App Duolingo. The app probably is not helping with pronunciation, but actually with language, right? Yes, but I've seen app that actually help pronunciation. I just don't remember which app. When you speak, and if you don't speak in a proper way, the pronunciation is wrong, then it gives you a wrong. And then when you speak correctly, but pronunciation is one thing, but I don't think that honestly you have to worry about accent. Okay, a lot of people, they try to mimic accent of the West when they're speaking, if you're talking about English, which I think is not necessary. We just have to be unique. Okay, we have to carry our culture, we have to carry our identity, for as long as whatever we are saying is being understood by the other party is good. But pronunciation, I think the best way, you can use AI, but the best way for pronunciation is listening. So for example, TV, on radio, and also you know, conversing with people from that native language. This is what I think that is the best, because I went to Spain to do my master's and PhD, my second master's and my PhD. I have to learn Spain from zero. So pronunciation is also they have different way of pronouncing things depending where they come from this Spanish background. Like for example, the South Americans, they have different accent, different pronunciation, even though they're speaking the same language. And Spanish have different accent, different pronunciation. And Spanish within them also, people from Castellano are different than people from Catalan who are from Barcelona. So I think the best way is just to converse. But of course, there will be, and there is already existing AI apps for that. But I find it better to do it with real people.
Thank you for the answer, Dr. Shaira. Someone privately chat me, and the question is there any machine that could detect whether someone is lying or being honest? Okay, so it's like a lying detector or something. Is there any machine that available right now to detect
Yes,
honesty?
there is actually a study that they give a game. They give something like a game, and they want to detect whether the person is lying or not with using a game. But if you mean the study is still ongoing, so they're trying to model trust, right? Or lying. In AI, if you are using face, we have certain area of the face where you can use to detect lies, and also gesture. For example, when you ask a question, if the person is looking at the left, if I'm not mistaken, left, that means the person is trying to lie. But this is not conclusive, because the person is actually trying to access the other part of the brain, or which part of the brain. I don't remember left or right. I think it's left. All right. So there are ways where you can do this, and especially they also use the eye gaze to detect lie, where the eye is gazing. Is it up, down, down? So yes, the question is yes. We have a new study that is going on where we try to detect corruption behavior of uniform body, like police in Malaysia. So I'm part of that study as well. So we are going to use eye gaze, brain scan, and also some interviews, some subjective information.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shahira. So can I conclude that if that means that it is harder to guess the emotion for actor and actress because they're just lying as they breathe, right? Actor and actress usually can act by their own, so they
When they are not acting,
I don't know, but I think actor and actress is just it's already being trained to like acting for someone and fake crying or something like that. So I don't think that machine could easily detect their real emotion or their real feelings.
but why do
Because
you want to detect the actor's feeling unless you're using them as a data to model your emotion?
yeah.
You don't have to detect the feelings unless, well, this kind of study we try to use in a real life situation. For example, for students, maybe pain detection, for example, in using with patients, you want to know whether the patient is feeling pain, and you want to know from the facial expression if the patient is feeling pain, and at what level is the pain, so that you can actually reduce whatever treatment that you're giving, for example, or procedure that you're giving, or in education, for example, that you're trying to detect students' emotion or students' expression by trying to see whether the student is confused or by trying to see whether the student is frustrated or the student is in flow. So that is more like China now. They are coming up with this kind of technology to try to know whether student in a whole class, they have very big very big size of student in a class. Maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 students for high school or elementary school. And they want to try to detect whether the student is bored, the student is sleeping, so they have all this camera. The camera is detecting multi-faces actually. And when the student is confused or sleeping or whatever, then they take action.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sarah. So, here comes another question from me. Nowadays, Indonesia Gen Z is kind of overwhelmed by mental health issue. So, do you think this emotion-based computing could help youngsters that needs psychological help? Yeah. I don't know whether in Malaysia Gen Z youngsters is also kind of overwhelmed by mental health issue.
I think mental health issues are very relevant. So I have a few projects in mental health as well. It is increasing. Okay, it's not decreasing, it is increasing, especially with the use of social media. You have cases of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying can happen. Remember, whatever that with internet, whatever the ink of the internet cannot be deleted, cannot be erased. Whatever on the internet stays on the internet. So that's why, for example, in cyberbullying case, whatever is there is permanent. And so this gives a lot of stress to students. And when it comes to AI, we can use effective computing, for example. We can leverage effective computing to do certain detection. There are certain works that are doing like detection of depression online, but I do not believe that it is efficient, because usually when people go depressed, they will shut off. And I see some people are doing research on detecting suicide behavior online, which I also do not have much confidence of, because people who want to attempt to suicide and all, they don't go really much on the internet. So you're not going to have too many data to model from or to understand from or to learn from. But you can use, for example, systems to manage mental health issues, to work with counselors, for example, for dashboarding system. For example, counselors can use dashboard to analyze whether there are increasing mental health and problem, and what kind of mental health problem, and what kind of solution or prescription that they can take to help these students.